We are only 2 months into 2019, but the year has already brought some tremendous PlayStation 4 games, and in today's video, I want to specifically take a look at 10 awesome single-player experiences that have been released this year. Now, some of these games that I'm going to mention do have a multiplayer component, but the fact still remains that if you were to go into each one of these games just with a single-player mindset where you wouldn't even touch the multiplayer, you would get a great game out of all of them. I will mention the ones that do have some sort of multiplayer component, but the majority of them don't, so without further ado, let's get right into this. Kicking things off, what I would say is without a doubt the best game of 2019 thus far. It has to be the Resident Evil 2 remake. There was so much excitement for the Resident Evil 2 remake going into its release, and I don't think excitement really reached a fever pitch until people got to play the one-shot demo, and then after we played the one-shot demo, we realized, okay, this is Resident Evil 2 how we knew and love it, but modernized and made perfect for a 2019 gaming audience. And whether you're someone that played Resident Evil 2 way back in the day, or you're somebody that just wants an excellent survival horror game, Resident Evil 2 delivers on all fronts from a visual standpoint, a storytelling standpoint, an atmosphere standpoint. All of those elements in Resident Evil 2 are done so well. Is it the longest game in the world? No, if you're a relatively good player, you could probably beat it in around 15 hours, and that probably is taking your time. However, there is some additional content, and Capcom has shown that sometimes it is quality over quantity, and that's definitely true with Resident Evil 2. Definitely a game to give a look to, even if you haven't been the biggest Resident Evil fan going back. This is one that I think will win a lot of you guys over. And the Metacritic score kind of goes to show it's got a 91 right now. Moving on from that, a game that released right around the same time as the Resident Evil 2 remake, Kingdom Hearts 3 finally was released in January, and it turned out to be a great game, and I was very skeptical about Kingdom Hearts 3 going into it. It was a game that was in development for a very long time, and you know how the story goes. A Square Enix game that's in development for a very long time, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. But luckily, Kingdom Hearts 3, while not a perfect game, it was a very good game. Unfortunately, it did falter in some of the storytelling elements, and that just seems to be apropos for Square Enix these days. You saw it with Final Fantasy 15. That game's story was a complete train wreck. Kingdom Hearts 3 definitely isn't anywhere nearly as bad as that, but for a Kingdom Hearts game, I would have expected a little bit better. But other than that, Kingdom Hearts 3 absolutely shines. The gameplay is fast-paced, and it's very rewarding. Visually, the game is stunning. It's got some great levels. Unfortunately, the absence of Final Fantasy is a little bit of a bummer, but overall Kingdom Hearts 3 is a very good game. Hopefully Square Enix could get a little bit more consistent putting out Kingdom Hearts titles, but I won't hold my breath for that. For now, definitely give Kingdom Hearts 3 a look. It's a great game, and the Story So Far collection just came back in stock, so if you want to get the entirety of the story, you can check that out now as well. Kingdom Hearts 3 has an 84 on Metacritic. Next up, we have Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown. Now, this is a game, as I mentioned at the top, does have multiplayer. However, the single-player component of Ace Combat 7 is what I think the majority of gamers are going into it for, and the single player is very good, and it's actually very content filled. This is a game that'll take you a little bit. If you're expecting something like a 6 to 8 hour campaign, no, there's actually some longevity and some depth to it. And the game itself, it's the latest entry of the long-running Flight Combat series, and it's got a very good story that's charming, even though the characters aren't as engaging as, say, some of the other games I'll mention on this list. Ace Combat 7, from an overarching standpoint, it's got that big budget feel, it's got a good story, the gameplay is tight, and if you do have the PlayStation VR headset, that is an added layer of the game that you can experience, and it's definitely quite good with AC7. Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown got an 80 on Metacritic. If you pre-ordered the game and you got the launch edition, you actually got Ace Combat 5 on your PlayStation 4 as well. Unfortunately, that promotion has ended, so that's a little bit of a bummer, but still very much worth it to check out Ace Combat 7. It's quite a good game. Next up, a game that I was talking about quite a bit going into its release, Tales of Vesperia, the Definitive Edition. The Tales of franchise has been going on for a very long time, and honestly, if you want to look at it from a strictly consistent base standpoint, Tales of has been far more consistent than the Final Fantasy franchise. However, consistency comes with a problem. A lot of the Tales of games don't really hit that excellent threshold. I've said this before, but Tales of games generally hit that good to very good tier, but never break through to that next tier. I would say that Tales of Vesperia is one of those games that does break through to the next tier. This game was released all the way back in 2008, and it was actually an Xbox 360 exclusive over here in the States. Over in Japan, they got a better version of the game on the PlayStation 3. Unfortunately, that version of the game never came stateside until now with Tales of Vesperia, the Definitive Edition. It's a remastered version of Tales of Vesperia on your PlayStation 4. The game is as great as ever, although it is a little bit jarring because they had to go and revoice a lot of the new scenes, and you'll notice that the main character, Yuri, is voiced by two different people. One person for the scenes that were already recorded, and somebody else did the new skits that were added. So that's a little bit jarring, but outside of that, the game is great. great. It's got that traditional Tales of gameplay that you know and love. The story is great. The characters are awesome. The story and characters are really what set apart Tales of games from one another. The gameplay is traditionally the same, but the story and characters are some of the strongest that you're going to see out of a JRPG. Tales of Vesperia has an 80 on Metacritic. Next up, we have a very recent release in Metro Exodus. The Metro franchise is another franchise that I talk very highly about on this channel. If you've yet to play the Metro Redo Collection, right now the PlayStation Store's Critics' Choice sale is going on right now. Those games are discounted. You can get both of them for $8.99. Check those out. But it goes without saying that Metro Exodus raises the bar for the franchise. On a technical level, it is far superior than 2033 and Last Light, those games being released on the PlayStation 3, even the PlayStation 4 versions. Obviously, they don't hold the candle to what Exodus is doing from a technical standpoint, but outside of that, the gameplay is very strong. You've got more open levels, the shooting is tight, and of course, Metro has always been built on its excellent story and atmosphere, and that is absolutely here in Metro Exodus. The game currently has a 79 on Metacritic. Now, I am a little bit of a Metro fanboy, so I'll say that I do believe that's a little bit underrated, but you take it for what you will. Metro Exodus is a great game. Moving on from that, we have God Eater 3. Now, this is another game with a multiplayer component, but if you want to go into it and play it solo, you can have a good time with God Eater 3. Now, God Eater is often compared to the Monster Hunter franchise, and you definitely get that comparison. There's a lot of crossover in terms of the mechanics, but why is that a bad thing? Just because there's crossover in mechanics, should that be a slight on God Eater? No, God Eater does have its own unique flair. It's got more of an anime art style, and of course, the story, while nothing to write home about in God Eater, it is much, much better than Monster Hunter, which Monster Hunter's story isn't very good. God Eater at least has a semblance of a story. There's a lot of content here, a lot to get invested into, and whether you're playing solo, whether you're playing with a couple of friends, God Eater is a great time, and I would give a recommendation to God Eater 3. Another game that I think is a little bit underrated on Metacritic, it's currently at a 71. Next up, we have Far Cry New Dawn. Now, Far Cry New Dawn is going to be for those people that really enjoyed Far Cry 5 and just want more of it, because fundamentally, Far Cry New Dawn retains a lot of the elements from Far Cry 5. Obviously, it's set in a new time period. It's 17 years after a nuclear doomsday. Hope County, Montana has changed in unexpected ways, and nuclear winter has given way to a super bloom, creating a lush, colorful landscape that survivors have begun to repopulate with makeshift buildings. Now, while that sounds interesting on the surface, fundamentally from a gameplay standpoint and how the game feels, you can tell that this is an expansion to Far Cry 5, a standalone expansion, mind you. But it's a lot more of the same. But I should note that Far Cry New Dawn was released at a budget price point of $39.99. If it was released at $59.99, it would be hard to give it a recommendation to at that price. However, at $39.99, definitely more palatable, and if you just want more, Far Cry New Dawn will definitely offer you that. It's got a 72 on Metacritic. Next up is one that you guys might find a little bit interesting, and I wouldn't recommend it at its release price. However, Hitman HD Enhanced Collection was released earlier this year, and it includes Hitman Absolution as well as Hitman Blood Money. Now, the thing is, this collection was released at an obscene $59.99. It was a Warner Brothers published collection, and if you've seen some of the collections they've published in the past, yes, they overpriced the hell out of their collections. I point to you the Batman Arkham collection, where they priced that at $60 as well. This is absolutely not worth $60, but it is going to go on sale, and when it's on sale for, say, $30 or less, that's when you snag up Hitman HD Enhanced Collection, because you do get two great games. Hitman Absolution, I thought, was a very good game, and Hitman Blood Money is widely considered by most fans as the best game in the franchise. Two quality Hitman games here. They look better on the PlayStation 4, although they're not crazy remasters. Just playing through the games again on the PS4 is very nice. Absolutely do not buy these games for $59.99. That's why the Metacritic score is so low at a 69, and it was justified because it was so obscenely priced, but if you get it at a discount, it's absolutely worth it at around, say, that $30 or less range. Moving on from that, I do want to give a recommendation to Onimusha Warlords. Onimusha Warlords was another remaster, but unlike Warner Brothers, Capcom actually has a brain, and they know people are not going to pay an obscene price for an older game remastered on the PlayStation 4. They brought out Onimusha Warlords, which in all fairness is a PlayStation 2 game, but it does look better, and they released it at the very palatable price point of $19.99. Now, going back and playing this game in 2019, you can see that it's a little bit dated. If you're comparing it to some of the more recent action games, like say you compare it to Devil May Cry 5, well, of course Devil May Cry 5 is a more modernized experience, but there's still a lot to like in Onimusha Warlords. I love the setting of this game, and I really hope Capcom goes back and creates a new Onimusha title. I think there's a lot of potential here. And again, it was released at a very good price point of $19.99. At this point, you could probably even get it a little bit cheaper than that. It's got a 74 on Metacritic, and I think that's well warranted. And lastly, I do want to give a mention to an excellent visual novel that was just released, and that is Steins Gate Elite. Steins Gate is one of the best known visual novels, and that's mainly due to the fact that it was released as an anime series as well, and that anime series is considered one of the best anime of all time. We just had the release of Steins Gate Zero as well. That's a visual novel, and that was adapted to an anime as well. Steins Gate is just tremendous, and while the anime is very good, if you want the more in-depth, complete Steins Gate experience, you really have to go into the visual novel. The visual novel has so much depth, so much dialogue, and a lot of stuff that was just cut out of the anime. Now, if you're looking to experience Steins Gate for the first time, I don't know if the visual novel is the best way to go because there are so many different routes, it's so hard to get the true ending, and there's just a lot to digest. Maybe watch the anime first, see how you like it. It is a little bit slower paced, but man, midway point it really picks up and you'll probably be absorbed into that. You'll complete it and then you're probably gonna be like, I want more Steins Gate, and at that point I would say check out the visual novel. Steins Gate Elite specifically is a remastered version with animated scenes from the anime, creating a brand new immersive experience. And if you don't know what the story of Steins Gate is, essentially it follows a group of young tech-savvy lab members who discover the means of changing the past by using email and a modified microwave. Yes, it sounds a little bit zany, sounds a little bit wacky, but I'm telling you, the story in Steins Gate is absolutely exhilarating. And again, after you complete the entirety of Steins Gate, then you can look to Steins Gate Zero. A lot to get invested into when you're talking about the world of Steins Gate, and Steins Gate Elite has a very respectable Metacritic score at an 87. And that's gonna conclude this video. Again, we're just 2 months into the year, and there have been so many great PlayStation 4 games already released. Have all of them been absolute blockbusters? No, but there's a lot of variety, a lot of depth here, and all of these games offer you a quality single-player experience as well. That's gonna conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.